The night cracked open with a scream that sliced through silence like broken glass. Emily said, "Michael, what did you do?" Her voice shook as she clutched the phone, hearing only ragged breaths on the other end. The air felt poisoned with secrets, and shadows stretched unnaturally long across the bedroom walls. Michael's voice came low, cracked and frantic. "Emily, stay inside. Lock every door, don't move." Emily's heart pounded, each beat louder than thunder in her chest. A crash echoed faintly in the distance, glass shattering like a warning shot through the night. Emily whispered, "Michael, tell me the truth." But the line fell silent, leaving only the sound of her own uneven breaths. Fear swelled in her chest, pressing her against the weight of something unseen, something about to break. Emily's trust in Michael trembled, her mind unraveling as the silence deepened, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Outside, headlights swept across the window and vanished, leaving her stranded in a darkness that felt alive. Her hand trembled so violently she almost dropped the phone, as though it burned with the weight of Michael's secret. Emily's world shifted in that instant, from safety into dread, and she realized the night had changed everything. Emily's heart thudded as the silence dragged, pressing her ears to the walls, as though sound might explain the emptiness. Michael said, "Don't ask questions, Emily, just trust me." But the words carved deeper cracks in her trust. Emily pressed her forehead to the cold plaster, whispering that nothing made sense anymore. Outside, the storm raged harder, thunder rolling like drums of war, lightning searing jagged scars across the night. The weight of Michael's half-truths filled the room, choking the air, making her body tremble as though she stood in quicksand. Emily remembered Michael's promises, warm hands swearing safety, the illusion of forever. Each memory now cut her like glass. Her phone buzzed again, and she flinched violently, the sound jagged against the fragile silence. Emily prayed for answers, but the darkness only deepened. Michael's voice returned in jagged gasps. "Emily, do not open the door to anyone." His tone broke with desperation, a fear Emily had never heard before. Emily staggered back, the command slicing sharper than the storm outside. Her breath rattled, fragile as thin glass. Emily whispered his name again, pleading, but he cut the line abruptly, leaving silence screaming louder than words. She stared at the phone, willing it to light up again to restore sanity. Instead, a loud bang erupted at the front door, violent, echoing through the house like a gunshot. Emily stumbled, palms pressed hard against the wall, every nerve in her body screaming. Her legs trembled beneath her as dread replaced oxygen in her lungs. The banging grew louder, each strike shaking the house. Emily whispered, "Michael, please come home," as she clutched the doorframe, every sound rattling her bones. Memories of Michael's reassuring smile collided with this hollow chaos. She thought of the nights he promised safety, his warmth like armor, but those promises now mocked her. The door quivered under another blow, wood creaking as if begging to break. Emily's sobs slipped out, ragged, desperate, like confessions dragged from her chest. A shadow moved under the crack of the door, dark and shifting. Emily's voice trembled. "Who's there?" But no answer came, only silence heavy as stone. The banging suddenly stopped, silence smothering the air like a suffocating blanket. Emily pressed her ear to the door, heart pounding, every beat louder than the storm outside. She whispered, "Michael, where are you?" as thunder rolled, echoing her despair. A faint scraping noise replaced the banging, something dragging slowly across the porch, deliberate and unsettling. Emily's pulse screamed in her veins, her body stiff as stone. She stepped back, clutching the phone, praying Michael would answer, but the screen remained black. A bolt of lightning illuminated the window, and Emily caught a glimpse of a figure standing still in the rain, drenched, watching the house. Her breath hitched, sharp as a blade, and she realized nothing about tonight could ever be undone. Emily sat in the dim kitchen, dawn breaking with pale light that felt colder than the storm. She whispered Michael's name as if summoning safety, but the silence mocked her. Michael had always promised she was his only world, yet his voice last night carried a stranger's fear. Emily's hands curled around a coffee mug, though she had no strength to drink. The ceramic trembled with her grip, mirroring the quiver in her chest. A knock startled her, sharp, small, almost polite. Sarah said, "Emily, it's me," and the familiar voice loosened her breath. Sarah entered quickly, eyes scanning Emily's pale face with worry. Sarah said, "You look haunted. What did Michael do?" Emily shook her head, forcing a smile that betrayed her trembling lips. She muttered Michael's name again, more like a prayer than an answer. Sarah wrapped an arm around her, whispering that she wasn't alone, yet the words felt fragile against the shadows swelling in Emily's mind. Emily told Sarah about the call, the broken words, the silence that followed. Sarah said, "Michael hides too much, Emily, and you keep carrying the weight." Emily pressed her palms into her eyes, whispering that she trusted him once, trusted every promise. Sarah leaned forward, voice sharp. "A man who lives in shadows drags everyone into the dark." Emily flinched, defending Michael, saying his secrets protected them. Yet her words fell hollow in her own ears, brittle against Sarah's steady gaze. The storm had passed outside, but inside Emily's heart, thunder still rolled. She clung to hope that Michael was still the man she believed, but the cracks in that image widened like glass about to shatter. Michael entered hours later, clothes damp, face shadowed with exhaustion. Emily ran to him, voice cracking, "Michael, what happened last night?" Michael smiled faintly, brushing wet hair back, saying, "Emily, nothing you need to worry about." His calm tone felt rehearsed, polished like armor. Sarah stood behind Emily, arms folded, glare sharp, saying, "Michael, lies have a smell, and this room reeks of them." Michael's eyes narrowed, but his smile held, crafted charm stretched tight. Emily's heart split between belief and doubt, torn as she studied both faces. The one who promised everything, and the one who doubted every word. The tension coiled, heavy, as if the house itself strained to hold their silence. Emily pleaded again, "Michael, tell me what's happening." Michael took her hands, voice warm yet brittle. "Emily, everything I do is for you." Emily searched his face, looking for truth, but shadows clung to his eyes. Sarah said, "For her, or for the other life you keep hidden?" Michael's grip on Emily's hands tightened, his jaw clenching before he forced another smile. Emily's breath caught, torn between love and dread. Sarah's words pierced the air like knives, the silence that followed cutting deeper than shouts. Emily whispered Michael's name, but the sound carried more fear than trust. Later that evening, Emily sat alone on the couch, staring at Michael's coat draped across the chair. The fabric smelled of rain and something unfamiliar, something foreign. Sarah's words echoed, "Other life," and they gnawed at her peace. Michael sat across from her, watching, silence heavy as stone. Emily asked softly, "Michael, do you have another family?" The question slipped like a wound opening, her voice trembling yet steady. Michael's eyes flickered, barely, but enough. He smiled, answering, "Emily, you're my only world." His words were soft, but the hesitation struck like thunder. Emily felt her chest hollow, a storm breaking quietly inside her. Emily walked the hallway at midnight, the house breathing with shadows. Every creak of the floorboards felt like footsteps not her own. Her phone glowed faintly in her hand, revealing deleted calls and erased messages. She scrolled, heart hammering, whispering Michael's name as if the phone could speak back. Sarah had warned her of secrets, and now evidence stared back from the empty call log. Emily muttered, "Michael, why erase everything?" But the silence deepened. Michael entered suddenly, his smile too smooth, his eyes darting quickly toward her hand. Emily asked, "Michael, why are your messages gone?" Michael said, "Emily, stop imagining things." His voice was calm but strained, a veneer cracking under weight. Emily felt a rope tightening around her chest, suspicion coiling stronger, each denial feeding the storm. The house seemed smaller, darker, as though walls themselves bent under lies. Emily followed Michael into the living room, demanding answers. Emily said, "Michael, who called you last night?" Michael poured himself a drink, shoulders rigid, and replied smoothly, "It was work, Emily, nothing else." His words floated, but Emily caught the hesitation buried inside. She remembered his earlier plea to trust him, yet every syllable now twisted like a blade. Sarah's voice echoed in Emily's mind, warning her not to drown in excuses. Emily pressed harder, "Work at midnight," while whispering like someone was chasing you. Michael's glass trembled faintly before he set it down, his smile tightening as he said, "Emily, you always make drama." The phrase cut her, belittling, yet her resolve deepened. She realized she was no longer blinded by love, but by the fog of deception. Later that night, Emily found a receipt tucked inside Michael's coat pocket. Not. She unfolded it with shaking fingers, revealing a hotel bill signed under a name she did not recognize. Emily whispered the name, voice breaking, her mind spiraling. Michael entered again, and her hands snapped behind her back, hiding the slip of paper. Emily asked carefully, "Michael, were you at work all night?" Michael smiled, leaning casually. "Of course, Emily, where else would I be?" His lies slid so smoothly, it almost sounded like truth. Yet Emily's chest ached with betrayal, knowing the paper burned against her palm like fire. Sarah's warning sharpened, ringing in her memory, and Emily realized she now held proof, fragile yet undeniable. Emily turned the receipt in her hands when Michael left, the ink smudged but undeniable. Her chest heaved with panic, breath sharp and shallow. She remembered Michael's words, the promises that now reeked of falsehood. She whispered, "Michael, who are you really?" The question echoed in the empty room like a prayer, unanswered. Sarah's voice on the phone cut through, steady, saying, "Emily, you already know the truth, you just don't want to face it." Emily clutched the paper tighter, her knuckles white, her lips trembling. She realized trust had become poison, love turned into a trap. Yet part of her heart still yearned to believe, still clung desperately to the man she thought she knew. The next morning, Emily confronted Michael in the kitchen, the receipt clutched like a weapon. Emily's voice shook as she said, "Michael, explain this." She placed the paper on the table, watching his face stiffen. "Michael," said Emily, "you don't understand." His charm faltered, cracks spreading like lightning across his mask. Emily pressed, "Then make me understand." Her voice sharpened, no longer begging but demanding. Michael's hand hovered over the paper before he pulled back, smile brittle, eyes shifting. Sarah entered silently, her presence like judgment, arms folded tightly. She said, "Michael, lies cannot last forever." Silence pressed heavy, the three locked in a fragile standoff, the truth like a storm about to break. Emily sat at the dining table, the hotel receipt spread like a wound before her. She said, "Michael, this is not work." Her voice cracked, yet carried strength. Michael leaned forward, voice low. "Emily, you don't understand." Emily shook her head, whispering, "Then explain it." Michael's eyes darkened, his smile collapsing as if walls he built were breaking. He said, "Emily, I had no choice." Sarah, standing behind Emily, snapped, "There's always a choice, Michael, unless you're living to lie." Michael slammed his hand on the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. His mask faltered, and Emily saw fear behind his anger. That fear chilled her deeper than rage ever could. Emily's breath quickened as she pressed again. "Michael, who is she?" Michael froze, shoulders stiff, lips parting but no words escaping. The silence confirmed what his voice could not. Sarah said, "Emily, he won't answer because truth burns." Michael growled, "Stay out of this, Sarah." Emily's tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Michael, tell me, is there another life?" Michael looked away, jaw tight, veins pulsing at his temple. His silence spoke louder than any confession, and Emily's world tilted into freefall. The front door creaked open without warning, and a figure stepped inside, dripping rain. Emily gasped, rising from her chair. A woman stood frozen in the doorway, eyes locked with Michael's. Her presence shattered the air like glass breaking. Emily whispered, "Who is she?" Michael's face drained of color, his lips struggling for words. The woman said, "Michael, you told me she would never know." The words struck Emily like a knife. Sarah whispered, "My God." Emily staggered back, her hand pressed to her chest as her breath fled. Michael's two worlds had collided in a single heartbeat. Emily's voice cracked into a scream. "Michael, who is Anna?" Michael reached toward her, but she stepped back, shaking violently. Anna said, "I am the truth he buried." Michael shouted, "Stop, Anna, this isn't how." But his words drowned in Emily's sobs. Sarah's eyes flared as she said, "Michael, you destroyed everything." Emily clutched her chest, gasping as if her heart itself cracked. Michael's facade crumbled, rage and desperation spilling raw across his face. Emily whispered again, "Michael, why?" But no answer came that could heal the devastation. Silence fell heavy after screams burned out. Emily stood trembling, eyes locked on Anna. Emily whispered, "How long?" Anna's voice broke, "Years, Emily, years of lies." Michael's fists tightened at his sides, his eyes wild, trapped. Sarah said, "The truth is out now, Michael, no more masks." Emily's knees buckled as she collapsed into the chair, tears blurring the world. She whispered again, "Everything was a lie." Michael moved to reach her, but she recoiled, shaking her head violently. His second life had risen from the shadows, undeniable, tearing apart the only love Emily had believed was safe. The storm outside roared, but the louder storm brewed inside the house. Emily screamed, "Michael, you lied to me every single day." Michael's face hardened, but his voice cracked as he shouted, "Emily, I did it for us." Anna stepped closer, shaking, saying, "You used me, Michael, just like you used her." Sarah raised her voice, "Stop hiding, Michael. It ends tonight." The room pulsed with fury, betrayal, and anguish. Emily's tears streamed, her voice trembling as she said, "You broke me, and you broke everything we had." Michael's mask shattered, anger blazing as he slammed the wall, yelling, "I kept both worlds together, and none of you understand the cost." The words cut through Emily, confirming the betrayal deeper than she imagined. Her chest heaved as she shouted back, "You never wanted to protect me, Michael. You only wanted to protect your lies." Silence hung, thick, every heart pounding like war drums. Michael shouted, "You all want to paint me as a monster, but you don't see why I had to do this." Emily said, "You had choices, Michael. You just chose yourself." Anna's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she said, "You promised me a future while you gave her the same words." Sarah spat, "You fed lies to both of them, and you call that love?" Michael's voice broke for the first time. "I never wanted to hurt either of you." Emily snapped back, "But you did, Michael. You destroyed everything." Her hands shook as she gripped the chair, her body trembling with fury. The room's silence cracked under the storm's thunder as their voices bled raw with pain. Emily rose, chest heaving, her voice raw. Emily said, "Michael, look at what you've done. There is no us anymore." Michael's eyes flickered with desperation as he reached toward her, but she recoiled violently. Anna's voice trembled. "He never belonged fully to either of us, Emily, only to his lies." Sarah whispered sharply, "The truth has eaten him alive." Michael slammed the table, voice breaking, "I built everything for love, but love was never enough." Emily sobbed, shaking her head, saying, "No, Michael, you built everything for control." Michael froze, the words piercing him deeper than any scream. The storm outside banged against the glass, matching the chaos within. Emily screamed, "Michael, you had two lives, two hearts, and you ripped them apart." Michael's anger erupted, shouting, "I gave you everything. I sacrificed myself to protect both of you." Anna cried out, "No, Michael, you sacrificed us." Sarah struck the table with her palm, saying, "The lies are over, Michael, and you cannot silence the truth." Emily stepped closer, her body trembling but her voice steel. "You don't own me anymore." Michael's rage cracked into despair, his face contorting as if the walls of his world collapsed. The air felt suffocating, heavy with truth finally unleashed. The storm reached its height as silence crushed them. Emily whispered, "Michael, it's over." Michael's face twisted, his body collapsing into the chair as if strings were cut. Anna turned her back, wiping tears as her shoulders shook violently. Sarah said softly but firmly, "Truth has destroyed you, Michael, but it has freed them." Emily's eyes burned, her voice steady. "You can no longer hold me hostage in your lies." Michael buried his face in his hands, a broken sound escaping his throat. The house felt split in two, one side filled with ruin, the other with liberation. Emily's heart still throbbed with pain, but the storm had finally torn the roof off his deceit. Nothing would ever be the same again. The storm had passed, leaving the house drenched in silence. Emily sat in the living room, her body trembling but her voice steady as she whispered, "Michael, nothing remains of us." Michael's shoulders slumped, his face pale, eyes hollow. He muttered, "Emily, I can fix this." Emily shook her head slowly, the last thread of love unraveling in her chest. Sarah stood near, her hand resting gently on Emily's shoulder, saying, "You don't need to fix him, Emily. You need to free yourself." Anna sat apart, her arms wrapped around herself, staring blankly at the floor. Emily closed her eyes, each breath steadying as she said, "I am done carrying the weight of his lies." The words lifted her heart like fragile wings, fragile yet real. Michael's jaw clenched, but he could not speak. For the first time, Emily felt the air clear, a new dawn pressing gently against the broken walls. Emily rose slowly from the couch, her knees unsteady, but her spirit stronger. She walked past Michael, not looking at him, her voice calm as she said, "I gave you everything, and you gave me nothing but shadows." Michael lifted his head, his voice breaking, "Emily, I only wanted to protect you." Sarah snapped, "You only wanted to protect yourself, Michael." Anna whispered faintly, "We were never protection, only possessions." Emily stopped at the doorway, gripping the frame as tears welled in her eyes. She whispered, "I will not be a prisoner to your double life." Michael's silence spread across the room like ash, his hands clenched but powerless. Emily stepped outside, the first rays of light breaking across her face, fragile yet freeing. Outside, the rain had washed the street clean, and Emily stood in the cold air, her breaths visible, her heart beating faster than the wind. Sarah followed, placing a hand on Emily's back, saying, "You've survived the worst." Emily's tears slipped quietly as she nodded. Anna emerged behind them, hesitant, her voice low. "I never wanted this, Emily. I never wanted to hurt you." Emily turned, her eyes sharp but soft, saying, "The hurt belongs to him, not you." Michael's silhouette loomed in the doorway, silent, powerless to stop the unraveling of his empire of lies. Emily turned away, her steps slow but steady, each one carrying her farther from the wreckage. Sarah whispered, "Every step is freedom." Emily walked down the path, the garden drenched and glistening, the air sharp with the smell of rain. Michael called out, "Emily, please don't leave me like this." Emily paused, her shoulders stiff, but she did not turn back. "Ah," Sarah said firmly, "she owes you nothing, Michael." Anna whispered faintly, "You made your choices." Emily exhaled, her breath steadying as she whispered, "This is the only way to survive." Michael's voice cracked, "Emily, I love you." Emily closed her eyes, a tear falling as she whispered to herself, "Love doesn't live in light." She walked forward, her steps slow but steady, the house fading behind her like a shadow collapsing into itself. Emily reached the street, the storm clouds breaking to reveal fragile sunlight. She stood still, her tears drying in the warmth. Sarah said softly, "This is the beginning, Emily, not the end." Emily nodded faintly, her face streaked with both sorrow and strength. Anna whispered behind her, "You are stronger than he ever knew." Emily closed her eyes, whispering, "I am free." Behind them, Michael remained at the door, shoulders slumped, his empire of lies collapsing in silence. The house stood heavy with shadows, but Emily no longer carried its weight. She stepped into the sunlight, her face lifted, her heart bruised but alive. The world opened ahead, uncertain but hers to claim. Emily walked alone down the street. The storm washed away, but the silence sharp as glass. Her steps echoed on wet pavement, each one pulling her further from the ruins she once called love. Michael's shadow lingered in her mind, his voice whispering excuses she no longer accepted. Sarah followed a few paces behind, saying softly, "You don't have to look back." Emily's voice cracked but steady. "There's nothing left to see." Anna trailed behind them, her face pale, whispering faintly, "We are all broken pieces of his lies." Emily stopped, lifting her face to the pale light of dawn. She whispered, "But broken does not mean defeated." Her words floated into the quiet air, stronger than the storm that had nearly destroyed her. Michael remained in the doorway of the house, staring into the distance where Emily disappeared. His fists unclenched slowly, his body collapsing into stillness. He muttered, "She was all I had," but no one listened. The walls around him seemed smaller, suffocating, as if they too rejected his presence. The echoes of Emily's voice haunted the silence, each word replaying in his mind like a curse. Sarah turned back once, her eyes piercing through the distance, meeting Michael's gaze with silent condemnation. Anna turned away, unable to face him again, her tears streaking down in silence. Michael whispered again, "She was all I had," but the words dissolved into emptiness. The house stood behind him, no longer a home, but a monument of betrayal. Emily reached the corner, pausing beneath a flickering street lamp. Her breath was steady now, though her chest still ached with betrayal. Sarah joined her side, whispering, "This is your life now, Emily, free from him." Emily nodded faintly, her tears glistening but no longer falling. Anna approached slowly, her voice trembling. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you know I was deceived too." Emily turned, eyes meeting Anna's, her voice calm but firm. "We are not enemies, Anna. We are survivors." Sarah looked at both of them, her jaw tightening, then softened as she whispered, "Together the truth cannot destroy you anymore." The three stood under the weak glow of dawn, bound by pain but no longer by lies. Back at the house, Michael sat alone at the dining table, the receipt lying flat before him. His hands trembled as he stared at it, the evidence of his downfall. He muttered, "2 lives, and now nothing." His voice cracked into silence, no one left to hear. The walls felt hollow, echoing only the storm of his failure. His reflection in the darkened window showed a man he no longer recognized. He buried his face in his hands, sobbing for the first time without disguise. His kingdom of lies had crumbled, leaving him in ruins. Emily's words replayed, "Love doesn't live in lies," and the weight of truth crushed him into despair. Emily stood at the edge of the neighborhood, the first sunbeams breaking fully across the horizon. She whispered, "This is the end of him, and the beginning of me." Sarah placed her hand on Emily's shoulder, silent strength flowing between them. Anna stood nearby, watching quietly, her tears drying in the new light. Behind them, the house stood small, fading into distance, no longer holding power. Emily's eyes glistened as she whispered one last time, "Michael, you cannot haunt me anymore." The words drifted into the dawn, final and irreversible. The sun warmed her face, filling her with fragile hope. The betrayal had scarred her, but it had not broken her. She was free,